I'm not very old, but I'm starting to feel the difference between generations. I was driving around the other day and I thought, how did people find music before the internet? It must have been through word of mouth, right? Or magazines like Billboard or whatever, or the radio. I guess you had to keep your ears open and pay attention and remember that, hey, that song was great. Does anybody know the name? This concept is crazy to me. Not being able to find songs by genre and popularity would be so frustrating. I have this insatiable need to find the music that sounds just right, and I'd hate to keep an ongoing record of songs that do this, and then have to buy an entire album when I want to hear just that one song. I'm thankful I came into my own in the iTunes generation. Back then, we could buy just one song at a time, meaning our libraries were mostly hits and favorites. This changed the music industry because one track wouldn't sell an album anymore, though people who might not have spent any money would probably buy at least one song now. When I was a teenager, iTunes cards were the easiest go-to gift. $15 meant hours more of listening, with great new variety in your library. But you had to be choosy. I personally didn't branch out much, but the free listening on YouTube definitely helped me try new music before I bought it. What I'm trying to say is that I support the streaming generation, and I think it's fascinating. Even though we both have access to the same tools, our perception of them is different. I wonder if people just a few years older than me might feel the same way about the internet. They used to have to pay by the minute, and going online meant making sure everyone else was off the phone. It was an event, and that's an attitude that they might bring with them still. Watching movies used to be an event like that. Going to Blockbuster and being selective about what movie or game I wanted because I could only choose one was a big deal. I loved a lot of movies and games that are objectively bad. Maybe that was from having to validate my choice, or maybe just from being a kid, but either way, whatever I rented had my attention for the whole weekend. Now I spend an hour scrolling through Netflix just because I'm looking for that movie that watches just right, even though I skipped 25 Oscar winners on the way. Sort of changing gears, but in particular, I also see a lot of adults criticizing kids for not being able to read analog clocks. There isn't anything about those clocks that makes them better at telling the time than a digital one. It was about circumstance. There was just a time where batteries were limited and screens were hard to come by. Times have changed, and now to get through the day-to-day, you just don't need an analog clock anymore. We find simpler ways of doing things. If it doesn't serve your modern daily life, it's a hobby, not a life skill. Like, we still need to use soap, but soap making is a hobby because people innovated manufacturing, and now we don't have to. I think these people are probably calling back to when they were younger. Learning how to read an analog clock takes work, and I've personally found that when others get to skip out on work that I had to do, I get a little bit jealous. That shows this weird paradox where life is about setting up the next generation for success, but also suggesting that they should use our methods, because clearly our methods worked well enough to create the next generation. Humans are the boss of the earth because we collaborate and build upon each other, and yet change is something we're famously scared of. Maybe if change weren't so significant, it would be less considered, and we wouldn't care to come up with new ideas. Or maybe we'd reach nirvana and be able to breathe underwater and talk to ghosts and live on Mars, something like that. Either way, it's time to move on. I miss iTunes, but now I listen to more music.